going on, boss? Can you hear me?
There we go.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, Brand. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great. I'm blessed beyond measure, man.
And that's awesome to hear, man.
So life been treating you good? Everything been going well for you?
Life's been good, man. Life's been busy, but life's definitely been good. So
Hey, busy sounds productive as long as you're not wasting your time.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Trying to make the most of it. So still trying to make some time for some R&R. Every
Uh,
once in a while.
yeah, I probably make too much time for R&R. I probably need to get busier. Um, but I actually just saw something you put on Facebook. What was it? It was a couple. I was scrolling through your Facebook, just kind of going through maybe some notes about some things I wanted to ask you.
Yeah,
And
man.
one of the things you said is, it's how you show up to your day. Not how your day goes, but how you show up for it.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that a
yeah,
lot.
yeah,
Uh,
man.
but
Yeah, I think a lot of times a lot of us just try to get through the day rather than get from the day. When we transition from just it's just like just kind of going through the motions to what kind of day can I create for myself. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's actually becoming, the older I get, the more of a big deal that becomes for me, because nowadays I'm getting more to the place where I want to schedule my day. I never
Right.
thought I would be a person that needed a schedule, but I think actually most of us are relatively disorganized if we haven't consistently thought about, what we want to do that day and make it happen for us.
Right.
um
Yeah.
and, and being like, I guess, how would someone put it, um purposeful throughout your day.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
I think I've always been good about keeping a good attitude, if that makes sense,
Right. Yeah.
no matter what happens through the day, but I don't think I've ever been very good at making like list of things I want to happen that day and making it happen. I think I'm getting growing more toward that. But anyhow, for those of you who don't know, this is a BrandtCast podcast. Bruce Foster's with us. I'm gonna be asking him a couple different things. Just kind of getting it, because we ended up meeting at Jonathan's house,
Yeah.
Jonathan Crow's house. And we had a couple drinks here and there, and it wasn't long that I realized I really like this guy's attitude in life. And then I got to see a little bit more about what you're doing and talk to you, and I'm like, man, I think I want more of a piece of you. So
Fair enough.
uh, we'll jump right in. Something that I see you're involved in. I don't know anything about this other than maybe that it's something that you do to maybe enhance your skills to be a little bit more successful. What is the Toastmasters Club? Talk to me about that.
Nice. Yes. So Toastmasters it's a worldwide organization where you have a bunch of individuals who meet together in smaller clubs.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have several clubs within Spartanburg area. You'll have several clubs within like the Greenville area, Anderson area, and anybody can start a Toastmasters club as long as you have X amount of members to join. But essentially, you go there and you give prepared speeches they typically range between 5 to 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you actually get evaluated on your speeches. So it's not where you just going up and you just give a speech, but you have what's called pathways. So it's like a training program. So you
Yeah.
answer, you take this quick assessment and it gears your program towards how you answer the questions and what your goals are, and and it'll help drive you towards that. So as you're doing your speeches, it'll give you speech requirements that will cater towards what your goals are, what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to do, have your own podcast, a lot of your speeches will be catered towards, interview questions and setting up interviews, or engaging with the audience and things like that. So, and then once you give your speech, so typically 5 to 7 minutes, you get an evaluation speech from one of the members in the group, and they give you feedback on your speech, how well you did, how well you didn't, what you could improve on, and just kind of like tips and tricks on how to improve. So it's really different in the sense that you actually get coached and critiqued on your speech and ways to improve it. And the flip side is you can also give evaluator speeches. So Brandon, if you were giving a speech and say, I decided I want to do an evaluation speech on you, it would be a 3-minute evaluation speech. So now I get to learn as well on how to give feedback in a way that's constructive. I think my cat's walking by.
I got my dog crated up.
Yeah.
You hear a
on
bark.
that, yeah, he heard you. So I can give an evaluation speech, so I can now learn and train myself to get better at giving feedback and giving constructive criticism. And then the last component is that we also have what's called table topics. So they're pretty much 1 to 2 minute impromptu speeches. So you have a wide variety of ways that you can grow yourself. Then you can also become officer in the club where
so
you
but
learn
like
leadership skills.
But like the point of the club is to facilitate your growth through giving speeches and through, it sounds like, being able to articulate yourself better, but not only articulate yourself better, articulate what you want to be and what you want to do better.
Yeah.
Does that sound kind of what's going on? That's very interesting. Is that something you guys go meet in person, or like how does that work?
We did at first before COVID, and then during the pandemic we switched to more just an online presence, and then now we've kind of bounced back and forth between a hybrid where it's half online, half in person. Or sometimes we'll do 1 week. So we meet our club, Rise and Shine Toastmasters. We meet the first and third Thursdays of the month at 6:30. So one meeting we'll meet in person. We'll also have people who want to join virtually as well. And then the next meeting, it'll be just virtual. So we're still just kind of still trying to figure it out, work out all the kinks as far as being in person with the pandemic and the coronavirus, and now with the Delta variation and all that stuff. But yeah, right now we're meeting in both.
Okay. And do you feel like that's helped you grow more, or how do you feel like that's worked out for you? I don't know like how involved you are in something like that.
I go as often as I can, and I try to give as many speeches as I can. One thing I would like to do, and I'm pursuing, and that I'm passionate about, is public speaking. And really it's just a matter of learning to become a better version of myself. And then I just feel like it's almost just natural for me to pay that forward and give that back to other people and share my journey and experience with other people. So it's not even necessarily about me like wanting to be like, obviously I want to be a great speaker, and I want to be the next bigger than Tony Robbins or Jim Rohn, or one of these people, or Les Brown or something. But at the same time, I understand that I'm in that journey, I'm in that process. And if I can give you feedback in my journey, through this podcast right now, then I'm okay with that in the process. So, but yeah, it's definitely helped me grow a lot. We had an international speech contest a few months ago.
Yeah.
And I placed third in the state of South Carolina. So
when it says you were in an international speech contest, was it like you had people from other countries who were involved then?
So it's pretty much like any other championship tier, where you would think of like you compete within your club, and then within your area, and then within your division, and then within your state, and then within your nation, and then all the ones who compete at the national level, and from whatever nation you're at, then they all meet together and compete for the international public speaking.
So you placed third in South Carolina, right?
Yep.
Oh, hey, that's awesome, man. That doesn't sound like a small feat, especially. And Well, okay, so I think I told you possibly, I used to be in the ministry, so public speaking for me is a genuine passion. Like
Yeah.
I think you're like me because you're one of the few people I think that when we first met, like me and you both started turning on different videos of different speakers we like to listen to, and that's how I am. I'm always like consuming some sort of knowledge
Right.
all the time. Right now I'm actually going through a lot of like Dave Ramsey stuff.
Okay. Nice.
But nah, that sounds like something I would be interested in,
You would do
honestly.
you would do great at it, honestly. And like I said, you can cater it specifically just towards like if you want to grow your podcast,
Mm,
like it'll give you programs where it'll just allow you to become a better podcast interviewer
mhm.
or I don't know what the right word for that
No,
is.
that's pretty much right. That's how I've
Okay.
been doing. Pretty much what I've been doing here is I've been trying to find like different people that I think are relatively interesting that I can
Right,
actually get in touch with. I for getting access to you was fairly easy enough. It's hard
right,
for me to not necessarily to meet new people, but gain access to people that that's something I definitely want to grow is
right.
grow my social network more to where I can get more people who are more specialized in
Yeah.
different things. But can someone just like sit in on one of the Toastmasters
Yeah.
or just kind
So
of
so yeah, so what I'll do is I'll actually send you a link.
yeah.
Um, and you can just sit in on it, man. And like I said, it's a great opportunity just to be able to network and then just to surround yourself around like-minded individuals. And I guarantee you, every person in that group would jump at the chance to be on a podcast with you. Someone who has a similar mindset, who's striving to do better, be better. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So yeah, you can get a whole plethora of content and
Well, I mean,
people
that
to
sounds really good for people. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that sounds really good for people who, especially in our area, who struggle with meeting good friends or people that have the proper intention to grow them,
yeah,
and that have that mindset. I don't know about you, but most of the people I grew up with, I don't hang out with anymore. And for that,
right,
because I feel like they were, no, kind of spiraling down, for whatever reason, they didn't carry
right,
that mindset that I got from different things to
right.
be better every day. But man, yeah, definitely send me a link on
Yep,
that because
for sure,
that
man.
sounds right up my alley.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I went to what you call it? Oh, I can't think of the name. They what is it? It starts with A, I think. Amway, right? So
Okay, yeah,
there were these guys that someone invited me to like one of these Amway meetings, and I did like their mentality.
yeah,
But they're obviously trying to sell something. Doesn't
right.
sound like this is really trying to sell anything other than making yourself more of what you want to be. It sounds like.
I agree. I also I would also say everybody is always trying to sell something.
That's
So, and
true.
if you're and if whether it's an idea, whether it's a belief, whether it's a product or a service, everybody's
Mhm.
always trying to sell something. So really I would say that what Toastmasters is trying to sell you is an opportunity to become a better leader and a better public speaker. And
Uh,
by doing that, by being surrounded by people who are also trying to do the same and people that will tell you, hey, listen, I think that these are areas that you need to improve on in order to do better in this area.
yeah, almost
And
like a level of accountability, almost.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and I think for young adults, and I include myself in that. The first thing people do is they get out of their parents' house and then they lose all accountability to
yeah,
be something more,
yeah,
and have some sort of support in their life in that sense.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
no, dude, definitely send that information. I will gladly sit on that if the time frames match it up. You said it was on Tuesdays,
The first and third Thursdays of the month at
first and
six
third
thirty p.m.
Thursdays.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
And,
Yeah, I should.
and
As of right now, I should be able to do that.
right, and you don't have to. It's not like there's an attendance record, where you don't have to be there every week. If you know, we understand life happens and things happen.
Mhm.
But what you can do is once you become more involved in the group, then you can begin to sign up for roles.
Mhm.
So, like I said, you can sit in and you can participate in the table topics.
Yeah.
Um, but as you become more involved in the group and become an actual member of the group, then that's when you'll start doing your prepared speeches, evaluations, and then if you want to, you can become a leader or something. So, but yeah, I'll send you a link after we hop off. So,
Oh, that'd be, like I said, that'd be awesome. So another thing I did want to actually talk to you about, and I didn't get this vibe when I first met you, although maybe, I'm, because Facebook only tells you really so much, I
fair
suppose.
enough.
But like in your life, I want to talk to you, I guess, like in your personal faith.
Okay.
So like from what I saw on like Facebook, it kind of made me think that you had like actually a more Christian belief system. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I do.
I got you. Are you like involved in like your a church, or tell me like what is that played in a role in your life?
So it's played a huge part. So, I how I grew up initially, I never really heard, about God, or anything unless his name was being taken in vain. So,
Okay, I
so
understand.
I'll just be honest. And then once, I started getting older and I got adopted, my adopted
Oh, you're
family.
adopted.
Yep. So,
Okay, I think we did mention that when I first met you. Because I tend to ask a lot of questions anyway. Okay, go
no,
on
no
ahead.
worries. Yeah. And so my adopted family, they were Christians. And so I kind of got into the faith through my adopted family. And then kind of going back to what you were saying earlier, once we leave our parents' house, any sort of accountability just kind of goes to the wayside. And
Mhm.
I went through that as well and was like, okay, well, am I in my faith? Do I believe what I believe because that's just what my parents taught me and kind of submerged me into, or is it because that's what I actually believe? So I kind of went out and into the world, I guess you could say, and just kind of did my own thing. And then
Mhm.
through that process, I got to see who I was and who I was becoming without
Mhm.
having that spiritual connection in my life. And then
Mhm.
that's what kind of brought me back, and brought me to have a more solid foundation, with my faith. So
I got you. Yeah, no, I think most people, if they were ever raised in like a Christian household, I think it's important to ask those kind of questions, like you said, do I really believe kind of what I'm saying? And you'll know if you, not so much if you believe it or if you have good reasons for it by just hearing, if you ever talk about it, it's like, do I
right,
really have evidence for,
yeah,
kind of what I'm saying? For me, it was more like, um, my parents, I suppose they would say they're Christians, or whatever. We never went to church or anything like that. Very chaotic household, but I ended up through like I've always been the type of person to listen to different speakers, and I think
right,
that started out by me listening to preachers and comedians
okay,
when I was younger. And so after listening to so much of that, I think I just picked up my own Bible, and that's kind of how I started to really come into
all right,
a faith centered around Christ. And obviously, I could be better. I think there's a lot of us that could, but
yeah,
no, it's played a huge role in my life. I don't think I would be anything of what I am as far as my attitude in life, how I feel about things, had it not been for actually the mentality that, because if you anybody that knows my siblings, we're all night and day. And I think
right,
that
okay,
especially like the book of Proverbs and different things like that,
okay,
just wisdom being poured into me. Not that
right,
I am wise. I think anybody that says they're wise is definitely a fool,
right,
but
yeah, for
I
sure.
was just curious. I was curious about that because
Yeah, man,
um, when I first met you, if I'm being like completely honest, I got
yeah,
kind of like a new age universalist vibe, and I didn't know for sure. I was just kind of I'm always curious when I hear somebody have different views and
Yeah.
on their faith and things like
So
that.
as far as the new age, what do you mean exactly by that?
Oh,
Elaborate.
you just weren't very well, a lot of people these days are not very specific, I suppose, about what they believe. Like if somebody were to come up to me and be like, are you Christian or whatever, I'd probably tell them, yeah, I definitely believe Christ died for my sins,
Right.
was buried, rose again the third day, and I try to live in light of that, of
Right.
course. But I just first impressions aren't everything, if that makes
Definitely.
sense. And so
Yeah.
I'm always interested though.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know exactly what to think. Because
Right.
I'm very careful when I first meet somebody not to press into spiritual or political issues or anything like that could go like those conversations that could go way south real quick, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, but I
Fair enough.
started, yeah, I'm just curious, honestly, more than
No, I,
anything.
I definitely I definitely am I want to I would say same viewpoint as you when it comes to, I believe, Christ died for my sins. I believe that, having the faith and the belief in him and just accepting the gift that he gave us,
Mm,
allows us the opportunity to, have eternal life.
yeah.
I also believe that there are other specifics that I have when it comes to my faith and my religion, as
Mm.
far as I do worship on Saturdays, or which
Okay, so
actually
you
would be
take like a
Sabbath.
Sabbath sort of
Yep.
approach to that.
Yep. So it's Friday night to Saturday night, and that's, some people worship and have their day on Sunday,
Mm.
and mine is Saturdays.
I got
Um,
you. Where do you take that? Like, okay, so I know like Seventh Day Adventists, they'll do something similar to that. Is that where that's coming from, or is that coming from like I just feel like that's the way you read it in scripture? Or how did you come to that conclusion?
so it was a little bit of both. So it was a little bit. So growing up, my adopted parents were Seventh Day Adventists,
Mm-hmm.
and so I did grow up in that church. And
Mm-hmm.
then, like I said, as I got older and kind of lost accountability and kind of disconnected from the
Mm-hmm.
church and my faith and, really my family and stuff like that, um, then I kind of went out and searched on my own and visited different churches, and and all court types of different things. And then was, doing some research on my own. And just according to, I believe in the Ten Commandments. I still believe that those are laws that still abide today,
Mm-hmm.
spiritually and on a faith level. So I abide by the fourth commandment, which says, 6 days work and, on the seventh day rest. And for me, the seventh day is Saturday, Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
And then just going back into a historical aspect of it, I'm not a historian, and that'll obviously be apparent, but
Yeah.
and I'm not a theologian,
I'm
but
not
that'll
either,
also,
in case you didn't know. I'm not either.
yeah, yeah, I'm not a historian or a theologian. So,
Mm.
but just based on the limited, amount of knowledge and information that I have at where I am now, I found out that one of the reasons that a lot of people worship on Sunday is because of the Roman Catholic Church
Mm.
and what they had implemented to change the Saturday Sabbath to Sunday, to show to other people, to the masses, that they had the power given to them by God to change times, to change God's times and God's laws.
Mm.
But they also will come out and saying in their manuscripts and things like that they weren't given any sort of authority from God to be able to do that. So it was
Yeah.
really just they wanted people to think that they had the perception to do that. And then they got adopted because they were a huge power back in those days. And so I
Well,
kind of I
it's
kind of
definitely true that, the Roman Catholic Church has added different things. Like, okay, we have Christmas, Easter as we kind of celebrate
right.
it now, different things like that definitely came from older pagan traditions.
Yep.
I think when it came to like Sunday, now this was my reasoning why
Yeah.
I still actually do worship on Sunday. Is that I think it's in Corinthians, but it says that they meet together on the first day of the week, which is, Sunday, which I have no problem with anybody that, you know, does like a Sabbath type approach
Right.
necessarily. Um, I don't know that we have to follow the law, in the sense like, uh, I think there are some laws that were more or less ceremonial for like the people of Israel, like, even the clothing laws, things like that. Um, I don't think, I don't personally think we have to keep the Sabbath, but I do think it's important to set aside a time for worship, if that makes sense. More than I think above all else, anyway. Like you can get on the specifics, but
Right.
you know,
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, and so I guess I'll make this distinction
mhm.
is there are a lot of religions, there are a lot of denominations, a lot of different,
Yeah.
sects when it comes to, what people believe and what their faith is. My thing is at the end of the day, like I know there's some people that believe like only this specific people will be saved or will be, will have eternal life, and only these people and only these people. Me, I think there'll be a wide variety of people. And I think it boils down to three things. If you were to take any major religion or denomination, it
Mhm.
literally boils down to three things. It's love your creator,
Mhm.
love yourself, and love others. Like
Mhm.
any religion or denomination, you can essentially boil down to those three things. So as long as you love something greater than yourself, like you're a higher power or creator or being or something that you can connect to spiritually,
Mhm.
loving others and loving yourself.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that as long as you kind of have that connection, and like I said, like some people call their higher power, you know, the universe, or
Yeah.
and like me personally, I call him God. I don't know how he works, how he moves. He's everywhere and anything at once.
Yeah.
So technically, he is the universe. So, um, but I think that as you begin to build and develop a stronger relationship with your higher power, I think that the truth and the light will begin to um, have more effect, not more effect, but it'll be more clear and more precise to you. But as long as you're focusing on that, man, I don't care what religion or denomination you are,
Well,
or
yeah, as far as for me to
uh,
have a connection with somebody, I'm definitely okay. Like as far as on a personal level, worship how you want to.
right,
If someone were to come to me and say, I want to be a Christian, that might would be like a different story.
right,
Um, but no, I it's definitely a topic I could get into for hours. Like I said, I preached for a long time, but I do because we are actually doing very well right now as far as keeping conversation going. I have like a whole page. I've only got to like 2 lines that I want to get to.
fair enough.
So you've been married for how long now? I saw together it was 4 years together on Facebook. Or is that how long you've been married, or is that how long you've been dating plus marriage?
That's that's how long we've been together. So we've been together. Technically, it actually will be 4 years on September 10th.
Mhm.
So that is our official anniversary date. We just celebrated a little early because at one of my current jobs, I had some extra time off, an
Mhm.
extra long weekend, so we decided to make the most of that. But we have married for 4 years, September 10th, and then we were together for 2 years before that, so it'll been 6 years total,
Oh,
which
that's
is
that's absolutely awesome.
yeah. So and it's been a journey, man. So it's felt like we just started dating. It's felt like we've been together for 6 days, but then at the same time, it's also felt like we've been together for 60 years. So um,
That's interesting. You say it's only felt like 6 days. You go back to like I think it's the book of Genesis talking about Jacob actually he would labor for his wife Rachel, and it said it's 7 years. It said it flew by for him because of the passion he had. And I'm curious, like, I don't know how to put this, like, how did you know? This is gonna sound funny, because it's different. It's different for everybody. But how did you know that your current, your wife now was the one for you? If you don't mind me asking.
No, that's a good question, man. So I spent a lot of time looking for that person, and it was
so you were always the type of person who was wanting a marriage type relationship.
I wanted a partner in crime, somebody to share my experiences with, share life with, and somebody that I could grow with. And I think the two things for me were, once I stopped looking and I started focusing on myself. So I would constantly like try to find somebody. I'd date somebody, I'd get to know them for a little bit, then I'm like, no, this isn't the person. Then the relationship would end, and then it was like, okay, well, on to the next. And so you'd find, you just find somebody else.
You start doing that serial dating thing.
Yeah, and then after a while, I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm gonna just take a break, and I'm just gonna focus on me. I'm just gonna do what I need to do, stay in my lane. And as I was doing that and just focusing on myself, my relationships with, with God, I ended up finding my wife because she did the exact same thing that I was doing, where she was doing this serial dating, boom, 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 couldn't, okay, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. And then was like, I'm just going to focus on me, going to focus on bettering myself, develop my relationship with God. And so we ended up literally just connecting at my old job over at Amazon, when I worked there, and we just connected there, and it was just a wrap since then. Now, as far as when did I know that she was the one, it was a little bit after we'd been dating for a little bit. We'd gotten pretty serious, and I was actually going through a pretty rough transition period in my life. And I was actually I just started working at BMW. I don't even think I had started yet, but I was actually sleeping in my car. And
oh wow.
So I was staying at the place I was at, and I just had some conflict with my parents, because whenever I moved from Asheville to South Carolina years ago.
Is that where you were originally from? Is Asheville?
No, originally I'm from my mom, but don't tell my dad. He's real jealous when I tell people that. So, no, originally from Connecticut, and then I spent a good part of my life in Tennessee, and then in North Carolina, in the Asheville area, and then kind of like you, where you're saying how you don't hang out with some of the friends that you used to anymore. That's kind of what I had to do when I left Asheville. Is I just kind of had to leave some of that environment and those people behind. So I moved to Spartanburg to try to get my shit together. To be honest with you,
yeah.
And moved in with my parents. Still
don't worry. When I left Asheville, it was to get my shit together too.
Yeah.
We always called it Asheville. No, I moved up there for like 6-7 months, and there was just a point where I realized I was like, oh, I got to get out of this.
Right.
And I came back to Spartanburg, and sure enough, stuff just started happening like that. I started to take life a little bit more seriously.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah. So
but you were going back to where you're talking about knowing your wife was the one. Rough transition period.
Yep. So once I moved from Asheville, I was staying with my parents, and after a while, like I said, I really didn't have my stuff together, and I was just kind of butting heads with my parents, with my mom and my stepdad. And then it got to a point where they're like, okay, you just need to go get your own place, find another place to live. And at the time, I was broke, didn't have any money. So only thing I had was it was a 2004 Hyundai Tiburon. And it was like, you had it was the coupe version. So you had the 2 seats in the front and then the little small seats in the back. So there was like no room in this car. But, I
Yeah.
packed all my stuff in there, and I'm sleeping in this little car in a Walmart parking lot, or Waffle House parking lot, or just pretty much wherever I can. And at the time, so my wife now, Yelena, she was with me, when I was living with my parents. At that time, she was living with her parents as well. And and then once I was in this transition period where I was sleeping in my car, homeless, didn't have any place to stay, she pretty much um, had offered, to say, she's like, hey, she's like, you can come stay with us, until you kind of get back on your feet and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, I told her no. And the reason was is
Why? Yeah, I was about to ask you why.
yeah, the reason was is it wasn't a pride or ego thing. It was a matter of like, I so I've been homeless several times in my life. I've been homeless like 6 or 7 times before in the
Oh
past.
shit.
Yeah, so for me, it was like, damn, it was like I'm going down this rabbit hole again. And I was like, I need to figure out a way to get this out. Like, if I don't figure out how to remove myself out of the situation, I want to make sure that I can do this not only for me, but for this woman as well. You know what I mean? So
So
I
you
need
wanted
to
to kind of show her
finally
you
learn.
could lay down the bacon and make sure that
Yeah.
you guys were
No,
taken care of.
it wasn't for her. It wasn't to show her. It was to show me.
Yeah.
It was for me to say, hey, listen, I need to learn. I need to figure out how to keep myself out of the situation, to get myself out of the situation for good. So, and it was through that period, and she stuck with me. Was always there to support me, and just kind of like, just be a positive encouragement, in my life through that phase. And I was like, man, I was like, this girl is a real deal. Because I've been in a situation like that before where they're like, oh, like, you're broke, you sleep in your car, like, deuces,
Yeah.
so
So I guess you saw that she saw past the superficial aspects of
yeah,
life and kind of that's
yeah,
that's that's awesome, dude. I'm glad you snagged you a good one.
yeah, man,
Uh, for those of you that like scripture and things like that, the Bible says, "He that findeth a wife findeth a good thing." And if you found somebody that'll stick through you through the crap you're going through,
yeah,
and through how you're because I mean that's what something like that is when you're in like a repetitive cycle and you're getting out. That's
right,
growing pains.
yeah,
And I've been there, dude. I've been there to where and I had to leave home, slept in a gas station parking lot, slept
right,
in a Walmart parking lot,
right,
try to keep your car running so you don't freeze at
right.
night. You know what I mean? So maybe not as much as you've been through. And thank God for that. God has different reasons for why we go through different things.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, I was just kind of curious about that. I haven't met your wife, but from what I've seen, I was like, man, they seem like they probably have something really good going there. And so I'm always excited for somebody who's a young married and really loving life like that. And I
Yeah,
do
man.
that's just good to hear. Um One of the things, let's see here. Um I have a couple different things I want to talk
Okay.
about. Um let's see here. I guess let's see where do I want to go with this. Um but going, I guess, from those type of situations to building a life for yourself. One of the things it I'm curious about, I guess, is like where you guys are kind of going in like a career sense, because we had actually talked about real estate and different things like that you've been involved in. And how's that going for you?
It's going well, man. So it's definitely the direction that we want to move in. Is so essentially what I've learned and what she's learned and we've learned is that, so I'm 30 now. So, I've spent, 20 something plus years, like 25 years, man, trying to become something and trying to learn how to, have a lot of money, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm everybody likes what money can do. I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily saying everybody likes money, but
Yeah.
everybody likes what money can do.
Yeah.
So I, obviously I wanted that, and I've spent so much time trying to figure it out on my own, and then it got to the point where I was like, man, I'm just wasting time just trying to figure all this crap out on my own. Why don't I just learn from people who've already done it? And so as my wife and I started to read more, listen to podcasts, search forums, go to different networking events, we found out that one of the main common denominators for people attaining wealth financially was through real estate. So it was like, okay, well, this is one of the common denominators. So it was like, okay, well, now how do we get into real estate? And then it was a matter of searching and learning from people who started, with nothing and then got into real estate and grew it. And so that's just what we've been kind of doing, man, is just kind of trying to grow that. It's slow. Well, I wouldn't
I've
say it's
heard that. I've
slow,
heard that
but
before though, because
yeah.
you have to have capital.
So that's what I say. It can be slow. It depends on how you do it. I mean, because you can leverage OPM, which is other people's money, where you can leverage the bank's money. You can leverage, other people's money, investors' money. So you don't necessarily have to have your own money to be able to get started. Um, if you come up with a solid plan and say, hey, listen, I got this house that's selling at X amount. It needs X amount of repairs. These are all the people that can do all the repairs for, X amount of cost. And then it'll take us X amount of time to sell it. Then we'll list it for X amount of time. Then we'll pay down, all the debts that we owe on this. This is how much we'll make. And net at the end of the day. I mean, if you come up with a solid game plan and you present that to somebody, I mean, somebody's like, hey, listen, they know their stuff. Like I could see that I could trust them with my money. So if you come up with a solid game plan and study that craft and learn it, you don't have to have your own money. You just have to present that plan to somebody who has money. And
So I guess making them kind of an investor in what you're
yeah.
trying to do. Where would you say somebody, if they were trying, because I really am asking this for myself because, one thing that I've really found out is that the easiest, or not, when I say easiest, I mean the most straightforward way to make passive income seems to be, for that I've seen, is through real estate or rental properties. When I don't mean passive in the sense you don't do any work. I mean like
Yeah.
that you're getting a compounding things that are going to end up coming back to you. You get that
Right.
return. You know what I mean? And where would you say it would be a good place for, say, somebody like me who really I really don't have a whole lot of background in something like that? Would you recommend, or is there somebody you recommend, or a school, or what would you recommend for someone to get
Yeah.
started?
So I know going through this, having a mentor is definitely going to be a huge advantage. And I remember my wife and I searching and trying to figure this out. We'd came across people who were, selling, $40,000, real estate investing courses and mentorship and stuff like that. And we were just getting started, and we are like, $40,000 for the, and it wasn't like, I
For
was
a
like,
course.
yeah, and I was like, I don't know about that. Like, me start, somewhere else or something. So what we found out is all the information that these $40,000, $70,000 courses were offering, we found on a site called Bigger Pockets. So, and
I'm gonna write that down.
yes. So Bigger Pockets, they have they have a daily podcast as well, the Bigger Pockets podcast. Absolutely phenomenal. So they just go in and they just interview huge, big time real estate moguls. They interview people who have been in it for a few years. They interview people who are just starting out. So you really get a real in-depth look at, from beginning to middle to end, and so on and so forth, what it takes on how to start, where to start, who to go to. And the best part about it is it's all free. So it's all free. You can listen, you can search their forums if you have any real estate questions. You have people in your area that you can connect with, that you can link up with. So kind of like how Toastmasters is it's international, but we have people within small clubs within, Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson. You can find people on Bigger Pockets that are, either mortgage lenders, people that are doing rental properties, people that are doing flips, people that are doing wholesaling, whatever it is that you're looking to do, you can find on Bigger Pockets and find people within your area that are doing that you can connect and link up with.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something the older I get, the more I'm interested in. It just seems like it makes so much sense. At least the flipping houses make sense. It just, for me, it always seemed like you, but you said it apparently not so much. It just seemed like you had to have a lot of capital to do it. But rental houses seem to make so much sense because, you could buy a house for yourself and then start to rent it out, build up wealth for the next venture, right. or I'd love to find out different ways for people that are getting started in something like that, because that's if I feel like, anybody could do that if they're careful, if that makes sense. But no, that's been something I've definitely is check out Bigger Pockets. Is it biggerpockets.com, I assume? Okay, I'm definitely going to check that out. And and it sounds like you guys have just been able to continue to grow that, and that's awesome, man. But even while you're doing that, you still keep a regular day job.
I do. So like I said, we could do things a lot faster than we are right now. We just aren't. We just aren't. So we could do it. We just haven't done it yet, which I think is the key word, is yet. So I know though that one way that we started is actually the term is called house hacking. So essentially what you do is you save up a little bit of money, you go to a bank and say, hey, I want to buy a house. They'll let you put it down for like 3%. So you put 3%. So if you're buying $100,000 house, you're putting down $3,000, and then you have a little bit. You don't even have to. You can actually, whenever you put in an offer, you can ask the seller to pay your closing costs. So if the closing cost on the transaction is, say, another $3,000 or something like that, or $5,000 or whatever,
that way you're spending less out of pocket.
Exactly. You could say, hey, I want, part of the stipulation of me putting an offer on this house is I want the seller to pay closing costs. The seller says no, say, okay, well, you pay half. If you'll pay half of the closing costs, I'll pay the other half. So now instead of paying $5,000 in closing costs, you're paying 2.5. So that's how we acquired our first property, and then we moved into it. It was a fixer upper, kind of. It was livable, but it was just like, it was super outdated. It was like my grandmother's grandmother used to live at the house,
Yeah.
And so the wallpaper was just like absolutely hideous. Everything was just completely outdated. The fixtures, all that stuff. So as we were living in the house, we just started fixing it up. And then we just fixed it up as we were living in it. And then we started on one end. Now we bought the house specifically. So really, we wanted to buy a house initially that was, the modern open floor plan where you could see all the way across the other, the other hall or the other rooms, the other side of the house. But as we started thinking about it, we decided what we wanted to do is that we actually wanted to do HMO. So we actually combined house hacking and HMO, which is housing multiple occupants. So this house that we had found had its own addition built onto it. It was like a whole, like a studio apartment with like a fireplace. It had its own private entrance, walk-in closet, full bathroom, just this huge space.
Somewhere you could rent out and cover some of the costs. That way you could work on it more.
Yep. So what we did is we didn't even put in whenever we first moved into the house, we didn't even bring our furniture or anything. We didn't even bring our mattress. Like my wife and I were just sleeping on the floor on blankets because we didn't want to like move everything into the house, and we had to redo the floors. We had to repaint everything, even the ceilings, the walls, the trims, the windows.
Mm.
We had to repaint everything. So we didn't want to like bring in all that stuff and then get paint and dust and debris all over our stuff. So we're like, we'll just put some blankets down on the floor, and we slept on the floor for a little bit while we renovated the little studio addition side. And then as soon as we had that rented out or fixed up, then we rented it out. And we actually rented it out to her. No, you're good. No, that's my wife. So we actually rented it out to her brother, my brother-in-law, who was looking to move out of their parents' house. So we rented it out to him, and he was living there, and he was, pretty much, essentially almost paying our mortgage, and while we were living in there, and then as we started to rent, I'm sorry, fix up the property. It was a 4-bedroom. This one was a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, sorry, 4-bedroom, 3-bath. And so as we started fixing up, we just started renting out the rooms to other people. And we would the second rental that we had, the second unit that we rented out was actually to my sister-in-law's father-in-law, who moved from California. Because the thing about, like, my wife is Russian, so the thing about Russians is a lot of them are coming from over west over to the east side. So whenever one moves,
I've seen that. I know a lot of
yeah,
people from like Ukraine, different things like that, that they were out western part of the United
yeah,
States. They're coming to the
yeah,
eastern part. Yeah.
yeah. Cost of living is so much cheaper over here. So whenever one moves, and then the rest are soon to follow. So
You got
so
tenants lined up over there.
so my brother-in-law lived in the studio apartment, and then my sister-in-law's father-in-law lived in one of the rooms that had its own private bathroom. And then we had 2 rooms left, and one was me and my wife were staying in, and then we had one more room left. So what we did is we just went and we promoted it on Facebook Marketplace, got a bunch of different applicants and stuff like that. We vetted the tenants.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Did because I mean, we're living in the house. My wife's living in the house. We have family living in the house, other people. So, for me, the biggest thing is my wife's safety. So I wanted somebody that I felt comfortable with my wife being able to be there with.
Yeah.
So after vetting the tenants, after doing background checks, credit checks, stuff like that, and then really another thing that really helped is actually social media checks, which I think a lot of people maybe don't do or is
Yeah, no,
underrated.
anytime I have dealings with somebody, man, first thing I do is I find them on Facebook,
Yeah,
Instagram,
yeah,
TikTok, if I can find it, see what they're really about, because
yeah,
people give away their information these
yeah.
days. But
Oh yeah,
something I like to make notice of is the fact that you and your wife decided, and it may not have been something you guys consciously said, but you guys decided to live well within your means by
oh yeah,
renting out rooms of your house. Most people I know would have been like, oh, we got a 4-bedroom house, let's fill it with stuff,
yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that, but
Right,
it's not making you any money,
right. Yeah,
you
it was a
know.
sacrifice for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I know me and my wife had a conversation, and it was like,
It
because at
had to have
first,
been some kind of contentiousness at some point.
well, it was kind of funny because at first we were just gonna rent out so that the house was like split almost down the middle, right? So
Mm.
you had that one studio, and then you had over here, and then you had another room over here, and then in the middle of the house was the kitchen. And then on this side of the house now, there were the other 2 rooms and another living room and stuff. So the kitchen was like the center hub of the house. But the thing is the house was, it was like an older house. Like I said, at first we wanted one of those open floor pans. this house had so many walls in it, so many doors, it looked like a maze. So the kitchen actually had
like a Scooby-Doo house.
so the kitchen actually had doors on three parts of the kitchen. So one was a doorway leading into where the two tenants were, and then on our side there were two actual doors on this side of the kitchen. So actually what we did at first is we actually just locked the kitchen from our side, so the tenants couldn't come over onto our side of the house, but they had access to the kitchen. So it was a shared kitchen, so we would share the kitchen with them. And then so we were like, okay, we have the one room that we're staying in, and we have one extra room on our side. And so
you guys left, you guys made sure you guys had enough space to be comfortable enough and private enough. Doing something like that would definitely require that, I think.
Yeah. At first, so we were going back and forth between who was going to take the extra room, and it was like, well, because at first when we had 3 rooms available, it was like, okay, well, this will be your office area, this will be my office, game area, and then as we started fixing up the property and then renting it out, it was okay, now we're down to 3 rooms. Okay, well, now we're down to 2 rooms. It's like, okay, well, now we got to pull all our stuff in. We got to share an office space, and then now, once we fix that up, it was like, okay, now we're down to 1 room. So, like, it was definitely a challenge, but it was definitely worth it. I mean, the house definitely paid for itself and then some, and the sacrifice was definitely worth it. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, because I've seen a lot more people these days where they're renting out rooms in houses. It's gotten so expensive, even in South Carolina, to just, what most people are getting paid at their jobs to afford something, that people are having to rent out rooms.
Yeah. Once you rent out one room, man, like like I said, just vet who you're gonna have move into. Don't just let the first person who throws money in your face, move in with you. But yeah, just try. Even if you have to box up all your stuff, just one room, rent the one room out. And if you get a good tenant, like I said, as long as you vet them, you shouldn't have an issue. I mean, obviously there's caveats to that, but typically. And then once you start seeing like, oh man, like I barely have to pay anything out of pocket, or like, I don't have to pay anything out of pocket, for my mortgage or for my utilities or whatever. And you just have all that extra cash flow that you can use to invest or save to buy more real estate, or to, invest in the stock market, or, whatever it is that you want to do. You're like, man, I'm like, why wasn't
how
I
did
doing
you
this
find
before?
like the house you wanted? Like, what tools did you use, or did you just like meet somebody that had it? Or
No, we just went through a realtor.
Okay.
So yeah, we just went through a realtor, and essentially we were actually looking for a duplex at first, and we couldn't find one. So that's actually why we started doing the housing multiple occupants, is we were looking for a duplex within a certain price range, and we couldn't find one that was in a good enough condition where we could kind of live in there. We didn't have to do like a whole lot of work, like repair the roof and all the electrical and all that stuff. We wanted one where we'll throw some fresh paint, replace some floors, put some brand new appliances in there, update some light fixtures and doorknobs and stuff. And so we couldn't find that on one of the duplexes or triplexes or even a quadplex. So really, you can actually get a quadplex is technically still considered a single family home from the bank. So if you're a first-time homeowner, so if you're a first-time homeowner, you could actually find a 4-unit quadplex and still only be able to put down 3%. You live in 1 unit, and then you rent out the other 3 units. So you can do that with a triplex, a duplex. Yeah. So anything over 5 units it will be considered commercial, and that's just a different ball game. But yeah.
Oh man, that's dude, I love this stuff. I love talking about it, because I just, and for me, it's like when you say, rent out different rooms, or, rent out, what do you call it, 75% of a quadplex, or something like that. I could just see the cash signs, what I'm saying? I know that sounds so greedy, but no, I definitely would love to learn more about stuff like that. I'm definitely going to check out Bigger Pockets and different places like that, man, because I think I'm like anybody, but I don't think it's getting more popular for people to kind of find ways to get out of that. I say a trap, to where you're stuck at just one job or something like that. You're not having multiple avenues of income, because, and BMW, you work for them, but they're as stable as you're going to get. Don't misunderstand. You know what I mean? But you definitely want to, I'm the type of person, I definitely feel like I want to have multiple avenues of income, that way, if say your job decided to give you some sort of unreasonable restriction or some unreasonable demand on your time or something like that, that you could walk away if you had to, that you would be okay, or have yourself, where you're not living exactly paycheck to paycheck. And I've done that for way too many years. I think a lot of people have. And I think, and that goes back to something else I was going to talk to you about, it never being too late to start doing something different in your life and to start acquiring new skills. That's the kind of person I try to strive to be, to where I'm trying to always acquire a new skill. And it isn't always just about money, a lot. My particular leanings go into like philosophy and things like that. That's what drives my interest. But, when it comes to your life and how you want to live it, money is a big deal. And man, I don't know. It's that's just...
I agree, man. And I think you're hitting the nail on the head with that. So, I heard this Tom Bilyeu, which for those of you who've never heard of him, you have to check him out. He's the if you ever heard of Quest bars, like Quest Nutrition. So yeah, it's a multi-billion-dollar company. So he actually started that. He does a podcast, and it's called Impact Theory. Absolutely phenomenal. Like I'm addicted to
Impact
to watching
Theory.
this stuff.
What's he talk about?
So he interviews people that allow him to learn and acquire new skills. So when it comes to like, his whole thing is like, you literally have the opportunity to become a superhero. So this guy's like huge into comics, right? So he actually had his own created his own comic line, and things like that. And the whole premise behind his comics is having like the mental mindset shifts and like the inspirational message behind all of the comics. But his whole thing is if you want to become powerful in life, you need to acquire skills. Like, that's it. Like, you can become as powerful as you want to by acquiring more skills. And so that is, so when you're talking about like just being able to acquire new skills, like you're nailing it right on the head.
Well, it's like, anything in life, man. It's I used to play this video game when I was younger. You've probably heard of it. It's called Mega Man or whatever. But anytime he would defeat something, he would always, in the game, he'd take something with him. He'd get a new suit, where he could shoot fire or anything like that. Well, that's the way you have to treat life in some sense, because you're gifted. I say this because life is a gift. You're gifted with certain opportunities around you, and you can't squander them. And now, I don't mean this in like a malicious way when I say you need to milk your opportunities for everything they're worth, but at the same time, you need to exploit the good things in your life, and not in some way that is illegal, or that is dishonest, what I'm saying, but that you don't take it for granted, what I mean. And that's something I've always tried to do. And still, it's one of the reasons why I, try to link up with different people. It's like Jonathan Crow, for instance. When I'm with that guy in the same room, I ask him all kinds of questions, especially when it comes to areas that, in his case, he's just an expert in electronics compared to most people.
For sure.
And so I tell him all the time, dude, I'm like, I'm sorry I asked so many questions. You're just one of those guys who you can ask him anything about a computer, and he's got it. It's super flipping smart. But and that's my thing. I just people, I don't mean to say that in like a complaining sense, but that they take those things for granted, like, if I could have, met you when I met you at, Jonathan's house, and I could have never thought another thing about it, but I don't take people lightly, and I don't think people should, because they're I'll say a positive resource in your life, if they can be, you know what I'm saying? You have to have some kind of sense about it, you know what I'm saying? But I think it's a shame that people waste that in their life, even bad people have something to teach you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. I think the thing is learning to do it less often. We all do it, to be honest with you. Even when it comes to the
we
small
all do
things,
it.
we all take things for granted, and we take things for granted that we don't know that we take for granted until it's pointed out to us. You know what I mean? So just like for instance, like your mind is one of the most powerful things. We were talking about computers and electronics, and being, this electronic wizard, that some people are, like what I want to do.
Jonathan Crow, shout out. Mr. Wizard.
Mr. Wizard. I want to be a wizard of my mind. Like I want to be able to learn how it works, how to control it. The better you learn how something works, the better you can control it. It's like whenever you first started driving a car, like you were probably like everybody, like the first time you were probably super sketched out. You didn't know, oh, this is the blinkers, the windshield wipers, the pedal, how much, how much to turn, how much to counter steer, all this other stuff, or oversteer. And then now, when my wife and I, we were actually just driving back from our trip from Panama City Beach, and she's like, it's crazy how like my brain can just be on autopilot, and I just drive without actually having to think about everything that I'm doing,
I remember the first time that actually happened to me. I told my mom, because she was taking me driving, like, Mom, I don't remember the drive. Like, what the hell, because like it just happened. Like I just finally, I knew I'd got comfortable enough to drive at that point, but it was kind of like, oh my goodness, like you really do go on autopilot with things that you've already catalyzed and learned. And my thing is, I want to be the type of person, and I think that it's helpful for people to be the type that it's not that some things aren't scary, like driving that car the first time. It did sketch you out, but you still get in, you still turn it on, you still crank it, you still got to learn, because you're eventually going to get to that place, even with like my guitar right here. I've been fiddling around with a guitar, and I'm not good. Don't misunderstand. If anybody, don't ask me to play you something, you know what I'm saying? I'm not good, but I do love it, and I fiddled around with it for the last 5 years. I'm sure I could have made more progress had I practiced more, but I keep coming back to it, and it's only recently that I've got to the place where when I first started, I always wanted to be, and I say that a lot now that I'm hearing myself what I want to be, but I wanted to play the guitar and be able to play it to where I didn't have to constantly think about what I'm doing, and that way you can enjoy it more. You know what I mean? You can feel it more. And it's only like the last year that I've been able to start playing songs to where I felt really comfortable just in that lane. And so I
Right.
think it's important for people to realize that you don't start out comfortable.
Right.
The beginning discomfort shows that you're going somewhere,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah, every master was once a disaster. I can't remember who exactly
Oh,
said
that's
that.
a great
But,
quote.
yeah. So, and you just you gotta be willing. Like, a lot of reasons people don't start something is because they don't want to be seen starting at the bottom,
Yeah,
and
you're
so
right.
they don't want that. They don't like, oh well, I don't want to be, the last person on the list, or the weakest person in the gym, or or whatever it is. And it's like, dude, you just got to go through it. Like once you get to a point where, and it's a skill set to train yourself to learn not to care what other people think about you, to the point where it keeps you from
Doing something
making action.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it keeps you from taking action. Now, I'm not
Yeah.
saying don't care what other people think about you, because at the end of the day, we live in a society where it's virtually like every all that goes on nowadays is people care about what people think about them. And if you say you don't care what people think about you, you're probably lying, because at the end of the day, like, I care what my family thinks about me. I care what my wife thinks about me. I care how people perceive me. I just
Mhm.
try not to allow it to get to a point where it keeps me from doing something that I know I either should be doing or that I want to do. Like, if I know, if I care to that point, I know that something needs to change, something needs to switch, and I need to work on something within myself to
Mhm.
balance, and to harmonize that to the right degree, where it's like, okay, I care what you think, but not enough where I'm gonna do what I need to do anyway. So
Yeah, no, well, I say this, if you have someone you respect or whatever, and they're showing disapproval, there's nothing wrong with asking why and finding out their reasons, but you have to do what you do for you and for what's right for you. And that used to be a crippling thing. I actually posted something on Facebook not long, just yesterday, about being a people pleaser. I used to
right,
be, and people wouldn't think this that know me, but I did it more than probably a lot of people let on,
right,
pleasing other people. And that is not an effective strategy for you to have what you want in life. You
right,
know, you have to go. Yeah, I don't care what anybody says. You have to go after what you want. Otherwise you're going to have a life that you don't want. And you look
right,
around and people are miserable. There's a lot of people that's so miserable because they never took time to stand up for themselves. And I don't mean
right,
like to a person, but for what they need to do in life, for what they
right,
want to do, and sometimes that's standing up to your own discomfort. Sometimes that's standing up to, other people's opinions. It used to be so bad for me when I first started dating, especially the girl I'm with right now, Rebecca. I used to just bother me so much that what people would think and say. I was never the type of person that would lie about what I'm doing or whatever, but
right.
you know, it's still, I mean, I could feel it in my stomach. And that's something, if you feel that way as a person, you have to burn that bridge, and to do what you need to do.
Fair enough. So yeah, man.
Um, let's see here. Oh, you mentioned exercise earlier. That's one thing I want to talk to you about.
Yeah,
Exercise and nutrition, dudes. Like, I met you in person. Obviously, I'm a big dude or whatever. Dude, I think you're a flipping beast.
I
From what I've
appreciate it.
seen. And like, tell me about your nutrition. Do you have a specific diet you're on, or like have you always been like shredded, or like what's the deal here?
Um, no, I haven't always been. Well, I have. I guess I would say I do have good genes. Um, at the end of the day, though, I do believe that genes are, and I attribute this to Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he pretty much talks and elaborates on his scientific research about how genes are like Christmas lights, or like light switches.
Yeah.
Is you can turn them on or off by the foods that you eat, or don't eat, and by the environment that you surround yourself in. So say for instance, if your family suffers from depression or some hereditary illness or something like that, yeah, they can be passed along to you, but that doesn't mean that that gene for that specific illness will be turned on if you live your life a certain way. So a lot
Something
of
counter
times,
to those that
yeah,
produces those conditions. I've heard
the
people
biggest,
say that before, that even in neuropsychology, that your brain will, different parts of it will start to light up as you start doing something that is, like, say, out of your usual or out of your normal behavior, and that your body will start to create itself. Because, I mean, people don't realize this. Every part of your body is alive and dies at different points, and recreates itself. And it's kind of like what you do. It start your, how do I say, your brain and your genes and different things like that will start to recreate yourself as you move towards something.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest factors from my, and I'm not a historian, I'm not a theologian, and I'm not a, neuroscientist or, medical doctor or anything like that. And obviously that'll be apparent. But from my research and from the research of others, is one of the biggest things that turns on those genes is the placebo effect. So say your family suffers from depression, and you're like, okay, well, my mom suffered from depression, her sister suffered from depression, my brother suffers from depression, my uncle, my aunt, whatever. Like, it's just natural for me to suffer from depression. Like, if you go into your life, into your mentality with the mindset that you're gonna get it because everybody else has had it, you are probably going to get it because that belief, you're hardwiring the belief that you're going to get depression into your, not just into your mind, but into your body, right? And so your body is going to say, hey, listen, my mind, my body is being hardwired for depression. Let me flip these depression genes on to make sure that we're in that comfortable state. Because if my whole body is hardwired for depression, but I'm not actually depressed, then I get uncomfortable. And so, I got to make sure, keep my body in that homeostasis where it's it matches how it's being turned on, or and turned
Yeah.
on in the gene sense, in that sense, not in the other sense.
Yeah, no, that's a big deal, and that even circles back to what we talked about earlier with about who you hang around too. There's been studies. I haven't looked at them personally. I watch a lot of Jordan Peterson,
Okay.
and he does a lot of psychology stuff. But one of the things they found out in an old study, I think in the 70s, is that if you take a lot of really introverted people and you put them together in like a camp or whatever, or a retreat, their symptoms only actually worsen,
Yep.
and yeah, I think it's important that if you see something in your life that is counterproductive to where you want to be,
Right.
that you don't keep facilitating that,
Right. Yeah.
in
Absolutely.
different between either people, the situations you put yourself
Right.
in. I am curious though, like, for real
So
though,
yeah,
like, do you have a specific
coming back.
diet?
Yeah, I was gonna reel it back. So I do feel that, like, obviously, like, I do believe genetics are real. Genetics do play a part, but I do feel that they are malleable in a sense,
Yeah, so
right?
you're not stuck.
Yeah, so you're not stuck someplace, but it does give you a set of cards initially that you have to figure out how to play and how to work with.
Mhm.
But as far as my diet, I just try to eat clean meats, man. And that also does come from a biblical belief as well, of trying to eat just clean meats. I don't eat pork. I don't eat like catfish or bottom feeders.
Mhm.
Pretty much I eat chicken. My fish of choice would be salmon. Sometimes I'll have some tuna, but it'll pretty much be chicken, salmon, and every once in a while I'll eat beef. Like I'm supposed to be going out here in a little bit and linking up for Labor Day, and I'm gonna we're gonna have throw some steaks on the grill, you
Mm.
know. And then every once in a while, I actually just tried elk for the first time.
Oh yeah, somebody I
Yeah,
know has tried elk. I
yeah,
saw I
so,
saw that. Was that when you went on that dinner with you and your
yeah,
wife for 4 years?
yeah.
Was it good? Tell me it tasted
It
good.
was, man. It was. I was actually pleasantly surprised.
Was
So
it
I didn't know what to
astronomically
expect.
expensive to try some elk or what?
I mean, I was going into it with an intention of, treating my wife and I. So, that was
So you were ready to shred out the dough, and
yes. No, but it was worth it, man. And so typically, and then aside from that, man, I still have my vices and stuff. I'll go out. I like to go to, as it's a colon cleanser, but I like to go to Taco Bell, man. You know what I mean? I like to,
he said it's a colon cleanser.
you
That's
know,
good.
and whenever I need a good, cleanse or detox, I go
Yeah.
to I go to Taco Bell and flush out my system.
Yeah,
So,
no kidding. You're not playing, man.
but
Um,
man, I'll go to Taco Bell. I'll get their cheesy beanie rice burritos. I have them add chicken to it. I had them add extra queso. I had them add rice, just like all sorts of stuff, and it'll be like this huge fat burrito, man, and like they're just adding stuff to
dude,
it.
you're
I
making
love
me
going to Taco
hungry.
Bell.
It's
I know, right?
that sounds so good. I'm actually about to go to the grocery store before, or not before I get off here, but after I get off here. No, I
Oh,
was
that
gonna
makes sense.
take you. I was gonna take you to the grocery store.
Yeah,
I was gonna shop
yeah,
with
let's walk
Bruce.
in. Yeah, man, let's do it.
But no, I want to get to the place to where I'm cutting out most of my carbs because I've
Right,
come to find out like the way your body works. Apparently, when you're eating carbohydrates, it's like it's just it turns into straight sugar. Your body apparently turns it into that. Apparently, and I want to eventually get to the place where I start cutting those out, letting my
right,
body just start using its own fat stores for fuel.
right.
And I got a lot of fuel, but
you
yeah,
know,
I was. Yeah, so you have like an exercise routine because okay, so were you always the type of person to go to a gym or to be
no,
super
for
active?
sure not.
So let me ask you
Active,
something.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, if you weren't active all the time when you got started, like how many days a week or like what did you find
That's a
kind
good
of worked
question.
for you to get
Right.
started?
So I'm actually gonna roll back just a little bit when you're talking about the carbs. Is I was actually having this conversation yesterday with my wife and somebody, and we were talking about how I eat a lot of pasta. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I love pasta. Like she was like, dude, this guy eats pasta for
Dirty
breakfast.
bastard.
Yeah. like I just eat pasta. I love pasta. She's like, I think he's secretly like, part Italian or something. He just loves pasta. Like for real though, yesterday I had pasta for breakfast. Like, you know what I mean?
I
Like,
hate you. I hate you. Uh
yeah.
dude,
Um,
I am part Italian and like
oh, man.
all I want is lasagna,
Yeah,
like fuck
yeah,
like
man.
Garfield. Like all I want is any sort of pasta made dish. I just want rice. That's all I want. Like ever since I've been trying to stop, like it's I think it's an effect on your brain and you're trying to stop something, you want it more.
Right. Oh
So
yeah.
all I want is carbs now.
Yeah, man. And so this is my thing is there's a thing like I said, I'm rolling back a little bit. But um it's it's like the what is it? Well, I'll just use it a pink elephant. If I tell you right now not to think of an elephant or a pink elephant,
Yeah, I've heard that. It's
you know what I
exactly
mean?
what you
That's
think of.
that's exactly what you're thinking about. So for me, it's like the biggest thing is not focusing on what I can't eat. You know what I mean? Like
Focus
I
on what you
honestly like
can.
I just honestly not even that. Like I just restrict the amount that I intake when I'm trying to cut or stay lean. So I'll eat whatever I want, man. I'll be honest, I'll eat whatever I want. I try to eat more healthier, as far as like, make sure I'm getting fruits and veggies and things like that into my diet, not just eating a bunch of grease. But at the same time, even if I did, I would just do like IMF, which is like intermittent fasting, where you say for 8 hours you eat, and don't restrict yourself on what you're eating. Just start with one small habit at a time. So just start with eating your normal diet within an 8 hour window, and then the other hours in the day, don't eat anything. And during that, and the only thing you can have is like water. And during those hours, those 16 hours,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty much it.
yeah, your body will start to eat its own fat, and it'll be in fast mode that whole time. So I know some
Now,
people.
so is that something you practice, that you do
Yep,
intermittent fasting? Okay,
yep.
so I've heard, different people tell me that and I say this from people who I've mentioned intermittent fasting to, and they were very critical of it, where they said that, doing that starts to eat your muscles. And just for anybody out there that does watch this, I mean, go look at Bruce's Facebook page. He intermittent fasts, and I mean, the guy is flipping shredded, in my
Yeah,
opinion. It's no, that's something. Okay, so that's cool. It's cool to hear somebody that actually I know personally that has done it. That I know you enough to really feel like you don't have like some exercise agenda sponsors or intermittent
no,
fasting sponsors or something like
not
that.
yet. No, not
So
yet.
we are getting close to our time. So I want to ask you a couple different
Okay.
things, as I've said like 100 times now, because I'm mostly getting through my list.
All right.
So where do I start? So your mental discipline. Okay,
Yeah.
so I've noticed, and this is where we kind of first connected, with guys like Jocko Willink, David Goggins. Man, I'm telling you, since I've talked to you, I've looked up David Goggins more because you mentioned him.
Phenomenal.
I knew who he was, but I didn't know his name. I'd seen
Yeah.
some of his clips. That
All
guy's
right,
hard to hear. I'll be
dude.
honest with you, dude.
He is, man. He doesn't like. He just cuts straight. He cuts straight through the shit, man.
Yeah.
Like,
And he's like some of those older ministers I used to hear back in the day, man. If you ever look up, like, if you're ever interested in more spiritual
yep.
disciplines, Leonard Ravenhill, Paul Washer, guys like
Okay.
that, they will knock you on your spiritual ass.
Yeah.
And
Fair enough.
David Goggins is like that, but for your whole life.
Yes, yes.
Like,
And for the other viewers out there, if you do listen to David Goggins, this is an explicit language type of guy. So this
yeah,
guy has
he
no
does.
filter. So just be mindful of where you listen to it and who you're listening to it around. Because and if you're not into that, then
Jocko Willink, he's a lot more soft spoken and less
yeah,
explicit,
yeah,
but man, dude, I've been listening to some of their interviews, with our just Jocko Willink's
yeah,
podcast. Man, that stuff will set you on fire.
dude, absolutely.
But yeah, as far as your mental
The
discipline,
mental discipline.
that's why I brought them up. But like, uh, how much is that? Have you noticed that helping you? Like, has that been like a major focus in your life in the last couple of years? It sounds like.
Right. So to cover two questions, that the mental discipline and the one that you mentioned earlier about the going to the gym,
Mm.
why I started going to the gym. Literally, the reason I started going to the gym is because I knew that by going to the gym, it would help me work on my mental discipline. So, and I started going just a little bit just to start building the habit, just one day a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, until I got to the point where I was doing 5 days a week. And as I started doing it, the thing about discipline is it carries into, once you learn a discipline in one area of your life. So as far as you, Brandon, like the discipline it takes you to pick up your guitar every day or create a podcast or whatever it is,
Mhm.
when you develop that discipline, it carries over into every other aspect in your life.
Mm.
So for me, it was, okay, how can I work on my mental discipline even more? And it was going to the gym. And so as I started going to the gym, we all have a tendency of something being new and being excited, and you're on fire for it. And then, after about 90 days, 30 days, 60 days, whatever, you slowly start to trail off. It's not as exciting, not as fun or enthusiastic anymore, right? And so the novelty of the idea has kind of worn off a little bit. And so what I wanted to do is, as I was like, okay, I want to go to the gym. I want to work on my mental discipline. Like, how can I keep that fire going? And so what I did is I signed up for a Spartan race, and
Really?
yeah, and so I got this from it's called from a book I read, and it was called a Ulysses Contract. So pretty much, you have this Ulysses, where he was setting sail on this ship through the seas, and
Yeah.
you have a bunch of sirens or mermaids, right? And so pretty much he knew that as he was going through, if they listened to the sirens and the lull of these mermaids, they would go and it would crash them to the rocks. So what he did is he had his crew fill their ears with beeswax, and then had them tie him to the mast of his ship so he couldn't move or anything like that. And he told him, he's like, no matter what, um, he's like, don't untie me, until we get past these mermaids. So pretty much he knew that there was this obstacle in the way, and what he did is he set himself up and his crew up to move past that obstacle. So my obstacle was the novelty of going to the gym and being new and being exciting, wearing away. And it was like, okay, how do I move past that? And it was by setting a contract with myself in the future of this Spartan event months down the road. So it was like, now once that novelty wore off and it started, I could feel it. I'm like, oh shit, like I gotta keep it going, because I got this Spartan event coming up. I gotta be in tip top shape. I gotta be on my A game. And so it just helped reinvigorate and remotivate me. And then that as well also helped strengthen that discipline, and to the point where
And in a way,
it was
you made
more
a commitment to your own success, but you
yeah,
knew that
absolutely.
you knew you'd have to rise above that stagnation, if you will,
Yeah.
in order to do that race. How long was it, by the way? I'm just curious.
It was about 5 hours, man. So it was
Holy crap!
absolutely brutal, man. Like it was brutal. I'm not gonna lie, but I loved every moment of it, man. So I mean, I wanted to quit so many times, and and we were in teams too. So we were on two teams competing against each other, and so we're carrying around 50-gallon buckets of dirt and rocks, like just in our arms, hiking and running for
Holy crap!
miles. And on top of that, we had 30-pound rucksacks. So they made us, get a backpack and put 30-pound weights in it. So we got 30 pounds in our back. We were carrying around 50-pound buckets. We're running, doing lunges for like miles and miles for hours and hours and hours. And then on top of that, they're like, yeah, and just for fun, you guys, you have 2,000 burpees to do between all you guys. They're like, we don't care how you guys do it, but you have 2,000 burpees to do. It's pretty much where you jump up in the air as high as you can, you come down, do a push-up, come up, and you're just doing that. So between all of the suck that we had to go through, they're like, figure out how to do 2,000 burpees on top of that. So, but I definitely want to do another one,
Wait,
man.
I'm just curious. Did you guys have to do those 2,000 burpees with everything on your back? And
Oh yeah,
you
we
know,
had to, yeah,
holy
yeah. Yeah.
crap!
Yeah, man. So, and then but I definitely want to do another one, and I want to do a 12-hour one. So yeah.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah! That's
So just
awesome.
and it's really like, and the reason why is for that mental discipline, because like I said, it plays such a huge role in your life, and anything that you do, as long as you're disciplined enough to be consistent, it's consistent self-discipline, and that's one of the major keys to success. Is you can do anything, but if you're doing it consistently and you're consistently self-disciplined doing it, you'll get good at it regardless. If you're playing the
That's
guitar and you're
right.
consistently doing it over and over and over again, even if it's for a few minutes a day,
And that's what I tell even my girlfriend and different people. If you're gonna do something, do it even if it's you do it badly, do it. Just do it badly if you have to. One last thing, major influences in your life. Books, I don't care if it's speakers, I don't care if it's somebody in your life. What are some things that have just been major impacts to you?
I would say, a huge influence is obviously my wife. Obviously, shout out to Elena Foster. If anybody needs, an amazing realtor as well, she's your woman.
Heck yeah.
So had to plug the wife a little bit. But no, for real though, she has been a huge inspiration in my life and encouragement. Just having a spiritual connection, having a relationship with God, man, and just, I think a lot of us we tend to grow, physically, like in the gym. We tend to grow mentally within our minds, and we try to grow emotionally in our relationships. But one of the biggest factors is spirituality, man. That's like a whole side of you that a lot of people don't
totally neglect.
They just neglect, and it's like, it makes up the core of who you are.
And people don't understand that we're spiritual beings.
Yeah, absolutely. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. So so definitely, definitely that. And then as far as that, just the struggles that I've had to go through, the opportunities that I've had to learn and grow, with my family, with my friends, but also, starting off, man, you're talking about the real estate, Rich Dad Poor Dad, man. That was like one of the first real estate investing books that I've ever read. And it just,
what was the name of it? Say it a little slower.
It was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
I've heard of that. Was it? Yeah. It was it is actually really good. Okay.
Dude, I had heard about it for a long time.
I've seen some videos on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a bunch out there. And I can be kind of stubborn sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. And so like I had heard about Rich Dad Poor Dad, man. And I'm kind of like, whenever Facebook first came around, like everybody was flocking to Facebook. Everybody was flocking to Instagram. And I was like, you know what? I'm specifically not going to do it because everybody else is doing it. And so when I heard all these people talking about, and it took me, eventually I got on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, because I understood the value of what it was.
Platforms, yeah.
Yeah. But the same thing with Rich Dad Poor Dad. Everybody's like, oh, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I was like, everybody's flocking to it. I was like, I'll find my own books and stuff like that. And that was just my own arrogance and ego, and then once I was like, all right, well, obviously people are talking about it that I'm trying to learn from for a reason, and so once I learned, I'm like, holy crap. And then my mind it was like a complete paradigm shift, dude, and just the way of seeing things. And like, so yeah, definitely Rich Dad Poor Dad, man. One of my all-time favorite books is The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. That allowed me to view why I wasn't doing well financially in my life more simply and easy than anything in the world. And it was a matter of, you have a thermostat in your home set at 70 degrees. If I open my window and cold air comes in, the thermostat's going to automatically kick on, and it's going to heat the house up back up to 70 degrees because I put the window open.
Yeah.
So we each have a financial thermostat in our mind, right? It's a subconscious program. And if my financial thermostat is set at, $100,000 a year, if I'm losing or making money, less or more than that, that financial subconscious thermostat in my mind is going to say, hey, listen, you're making way more money than you should be, or than you're set to, you're comfortable at, so you'll self-sabotage yourself subconsciously to lower your finances back to your level. So some people have a financial thermostat at 100,000. Some people have it at 50,000. Some people at $10,000 a year, and some people are set to zero and below zero. They're freaking freezing.
Yeah, it goes back to that, to your own personal ambitions too.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Yeah.
And but yeah, man, dude, this has been awesome.
Jim Rohn. Go ahead. Jim Rohn.
What's the name of it?
Jim Rohn.
Jim Rohn.
One of my all. Have you ever heard of Tony Robbins?
I've heard the name.
Right. So he's a huge inspirational, motivational speaker. Jim Rohn was actually his mentor. And the thing I love about Jim Rohn is that he gives his inspirational talks and stuff, but he does it. So think of like Jocko Willink or David Goggins, but way more on a calmer level, right? But with the same sort of like passion and ferocity and like the power of his words. And that's the thing, is he doesn't need to be like super intense. Like every word he has it just tells that you can tell that he is a master of his craft. Like he is a master speaker. And the part I love about it is he uses biblical influences to help elaborate on his messages, as far as like the parables of Jesus and things like that. And he says them and puts them in like a new twist where you feel like it's applicable to you now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's absolutely amazing. So yeah, Jim Rohn, Les Brown, Robert Kiyosaki, T. Harv Eker, David Goggins, Tom Bilyeu, Les Brown. There's a bunch, man.
Oh, well, that's awesome, man. Well, I told you we'd get down about 2:30. We've kind of gone a little past that. So I think that was kind of the last thing I had. So, it's a good place to stop. I'm so appreciative of you coming on with me. And I hope we get to do it again. Hopefully, maybe even meet up at some point and hang out. But yeah, no, everybody, this is Bruce Foster. Thank you again for coming on, man. And I hope to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure, Brandon. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, brother.
All right. Thank you for watching this episode of BrandtCast. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for more content like this. Thank you again, and keep talking.